Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Ryan Saplin here, Fat Loss Strength Coach, coming to you today with another video on glute training, best glute exercise, the glute bridge, one-leg glute bridge. And essentially, you can see my hands on my pelvis, and the reason why I'm doing that is to see if I'm having any pelvic movement. Because if the pelvis moves too much, you're going to get excessive arch in the back or anterior tilt. And we want to prevent the lower back from getting too heavily involved or flexing and extending because you're trying to keep the core tight. Now, also, I was kind of touching my glutes to see which side was basically working harder, because you want to get a sense and a difference for which side is weaker or stronger. Because if you find one side being more tight than the other or more activated than the other, you need to put more emphasis on the weaker side. Also, I'm feeling my gluteus medius to see what's activating there, checking my adductors and my TFL, my abductors really. And then essentially just trying to contract the glutes. Now, one thing that's important here is that you see my feet are slightly turned out, and I'm also pushing my knees out towards my knees just a little bit. What this does for me specifically is it allows me to use more of my glutes, because a lot of the time my inner thigh muscles are very tight, my ankles are tight, which makes it difficult for the glutes to properly activate, especially if you have very tight hip flexors like I do. So it depends. Sometimes it does make a difference. It does actually make a difference if you stretch your hip flexors before doing this exercise. Now you can see how I'm positioning my finger on my belly button on the top of my rib cage or my bottom of my sternum, essentially trying to see if there's any change in distance. Because if there's a change in distance, that means that I'm moving my spine. Because if the belly button moves away if the belly button moves away or sternum moves away from the belly button, that means my back is arching. And you want to make sure that there is no movement there. And you're just trying to get a better sense for the muscles to activate in this exercise. Now you see I'm actually doing, what do you call it? I'm actually doing like a ton of reps, like I think 40 or 50 reps I do in this set here. And again, just trying to warm up the muscles. You can see how I'm kind of playing around with the distance. That's kind of what you want to do. When you want to work your muscles to the best of your ability to get the best activation in the glutes, or any muscle for that matter, you got to find the best position for where your foot is, for where your hips are, and where your brain is. Basically, put your brain in your butt, right? And then finding out to see, like I'm just continually trying to find because I've been having some hip problems, and I'm just trying to pay attention to see how much pelvic movement I get, because I do have one side that makes me shift to the other, and just continuing to squeeze those glutes with every extension. Now remember, you don't want to force a full extension of the back, because ultimately that's going to give you problems. I don't know if you train any clients, it's going to give your client problems. So here what we're going to do is we do a single leg glute bridge. Now you can see how I'm crossing over. This can be a bad thing to do sometimes, especially if someone's very tight. One thing that's important about this exercise, it just makes it so that you get two things for it. You get to stretch out your piriformis of the right side, and maybe the adductor, if it's tight, of the right side, in this case for me. And then, of course, you also get to use more of one side because you get more weight on that leg. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is you saw how I pulled my toe up. The reason why I did that was I was actually trying to see the difference, if I could feel a difference in pulling my toe up versus pushing my foot down. And what I found, I will have to say that there's actually a little bit more glute activation with the foot being down. It's kind of hard to say, because what I've also found that you may or may not have known is that if you push your big toe on the ground, you can actually feel your gluteus medius activate more. You should just try it. If you put your hands on your hips and you push your big toe down, you'll actually feel your glute activate a little bit more. It's actually kind of interesting. So anyways, I nerd out on this kind of stuff. Make sure that when you do this exercise, you keep your pelvis square, because if your piriformis or adductors are tight, like in this case, I have my left leg over my right, you may end up twisting and turning. You want to try to keep your pelvis square, so that way when you move up and down, it's moving essentially one straight line, or specifically the right, think about in this case, the right leg, the right pelvis is staying nice and steady. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Click like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you are not an email subscriber and you'd like to get daily free workouts from me, click the link on the screen or check the links in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys all on the next video.